The invisible wall appeared the day after my 52nd birthday. It wasn't a sudden event, no dramatic fight or midnight confession. It was something far more insidious, like a slow-motion geological shift that you don't notice until the foundations of your house are already cracked. We've been married for 28 years. 28 years. That's enough time to forget what life was like before that person existed. Enough time to have developed a physical shorthand, a kind of gravitational pull that dictates where you stand in a room, who holds the umbrella, who grabs the keys. We'd survived the kids moving out, the terrible financial crunch of '08, and the nightmare kitchen renovation that almost broke us emotionally. But somehow, turning 52 felt like the real trigger, the one where the script flipped and the intimacy just evaporated. Look, I know what you're thinking. Middle-aged sex drought. And sure, that's part of the picture, maybe the most painful part. But the terrifying thing wasn't the lack of scheduled, lights-out missionary obligation. It was the complete, total cessation of accidental touch. She stopped leaning on me. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But think about it. For decades, when my wife Sarah was standing at the kitchen island, talking about her day or scrolling through her phone, she always had a default posture, leaning into my side, her hip bumping mine, maybe her forearm resting lightly on my shoulder. It was the silent sign that we were a unit, physically connected even when mentally distracted. That contact, those little anchor points, disappeared entirely. She became meticulous about space. I'd walk into the hallway and she'd pivot slightly so our paths didn't cross. A subtle movement, maybe a millimeter of adjustment. But if you're looking for it, if you're hungry for the ghost of that old connection, you see it every single time. It felt like she was physically allergic to me, navigating our shared house as if I were a piece of furniture she needed to circumnavigate to prevent skin-on-skin contact. The bed became a wasteland. We used to sleep intertwined. Over the years, that evolved into the back-to-back spoon, maybe the hand resting on the hip. Now, when I turned 52, the separation began. Not dramatically, just a slow, consistent drift toward the edge of the mattress, leaving this cold, empty chasm in the center of the queen size, I swear. The air in that middle space felt colder than the air anywhere else in the room. I tried to bridge it, moving my knee gently over, maybe reaching out a cautious hand in the dark, and I would feel her tense, that immediate visceral recoil, even in sleep. I would pull my hand back like it had been burned, my heart sinking down into my stomach, a heavy, wet feeling of failure. I spent the next few weeks inventing reasons to touch her. I started cooking more, just so I could brush past her as I reached for the spices, testing the waters. Nothing I'd offer a shoulder rub after she came home from work, and she'd politely decline, saying her neck felt fine, or she'd twist away to look at her phone. The politeness was what killed me. If she had snapped at me, if she had yelled, "Don't touch me, I need space," I could have worked with that. I could have fought it, or respected it, or argued it, but the soft, neutral avoidance felt impenetrable. It was a refusal without being an insult. I started obsessing over my appearance. I know it's vain, but you start to grasp at straws. I'm 52. I'm not exactly rocking a six-pack, but I'm in decent shape. I play basketball twice a week. I wear clothes that fit. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for long, painful sessions, scrutinizing every wrinkle, every gray hair, every slight sag around the jawline. Was it the weight I gained over the holidays? Did I smell different? Had I somehow turned into a physically repellent organism overnight, specifically on November the 3rd? The worst day was when we were packing groceries. I reached for the gallon of milk she was holding, just a reflex, to take it from her and put it away. Our fingers brushed, and I watched her hand flinch away as if she'd accidentally touched a hot burner. She looked down at the milk carton instead of at me, muttered a quick, "Sorry," and hurried past, leaving me standing there, clutching a cold plastic jug, feeling like I'd just been publicly reprimanded by a stranger. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and demand to know what the hell was happening, because this wasn't just a lull in our sex life. This was the deconstruction of our entire physical language. This was the removal of the background hum of affection that keeps a 28-year marriage functioning. And that's when I realized the real fear. The fear that this wasn't about me at all. I considered the other man possibility, of course. That thought is a corrosive acid in your gut. But everything else seemed fine. She was still home when she said she would be. She wasn't hiding her phone. She was still complaining about her boss. No, the crisis wasn't external. It was happening right here, between the two of us, inside this carefully curated life we had built. I finally managed to corner her one Tuesday night, after the late news, but before she started scrolling her iPad, I kept my voice low, tried to sound less desperate and more genuinely curious. I looked at her across the sofa where she sat, perfectly upright, maintaining maximum distance. "Sarah," I started, "can we talk about something? I know this sounds pathetic, but why don't you touch me anymore?" The question hung there. It felt massive, heavier than any mortgage payment or college tuition bill we'd ever faced. She didn't get angry. She didn't cry. She sighed, that long, weary sigh that suggested I was being unbelievably dramatic over nothing. She looked at the TV remote for a moment, adjusted the throw pillow behind her head, and then finally looked at me, not with cruelty, but with an almost total lack of emotional resonance. "What are you talking about?" she asked flatly. "I touched you this morning. I handed you the coffee cup." That was the moment I knew I was in serious trouble. She didn't see the lack of intimacy. She genuinely believed that the casual exchange of a ceramic mug counted as human connection. The problem wasn't that she had stopped touching me. The problem was that she hadn't noticed. The distance was so normal to her now that she couldn't even see the empty space between us anymore, and that realization, that I was now essentially invisible to her physical reality, hurt more than any rejection. Real or imagined, I felt the cold realization sink in that I was completely alone in trying to fix a relationship that she didn't even acknowledge was broken. I didn't press the issue. After that, I just sat there, watching the late-night commercials, calculating the exact number of square feet of this house I had to share with someone who didn't want to feel my skin against hers. And I knew, absolutely knew, that my next move couldn't be another subtle knee bump or a fake reach for a spice jar. It had to be something drastic, something that forced her to see the person sitting right next to her. If you have ever felt this specific type of domestic chill, that loneliness that settles in right next to the person you promised forever to, let me know. Tell me what you did, because I'm running out of ideas, and 52 feels like a very long time to live without warmth.